Well, call me slow. Okay, slow. But the thing is, sometimes you have to, things just occur to you. Like you put two and two together, or you get two, you put two facts together and you realise things. Well, I was just thinking, I'd said my uncle was negative because, my dad's cousin, because when I had an accident in 1992, I had bad head injuries and I think it was his sister used to say, Maurice came home and he said, oh, Ian's going to die. I thought that's a bit negative, but actually when I think about it, he was, now when did he die? Was it about 2008? And he was either 84 or 88. So when he was young, somebody who had head injuries as bad as mine, I mean, the first there wouldn't have been an ambulance to get me to my local hospital. It would have been a horse and cart or a horse and trap or something like that. There would be no there were very few petrol engine vehicles about. They wouldn't have ambulances. There'd be no National Health Service either. Because that's the thing. His uncle, I think it was his uncle, it was my dad's uncle. He died of heart valve trouble when he was 31 in 1931 because they couldn't operate in those days. That's what they said. Even if they'd had the money to pay the doctor, he couldn't have done anything. But obviously, the head injuries I had, they wouldn't have got me to probably wouldn't have got me to the local hospital in time. I don't know. I don't think I had a blood transfusion, but I was badly injured. I've no idea how long I was unconscious for, because he'd say to Dad, well, Dad would say, do you remember so-and-so? And I'd say, no. He said, yeah, sure you do. I'd say, when did they die? He'd say, 1948. He had no sense of time. I'd have to remind him that I wasn't born until 66. It was always like that. And that's the thing. The possibly, if they'd got me to the local hospital without me bleeding to death, it was touch and go whether I lived. And they had to transfer me straight away to the local head injuries specialist hospital, which was 17 miles away at least. 17 miles in a horse and cart, because there wouldn't be an ambulance. That's where it would be. I would have died on the way there. I'd have been bumped about and that, and I was already knocked unconscious, and I was bleeding badly. I mean, I had a gash in my knee, a hole in my knee. I was almost cut down to the kneecap. And I didn't know, I wasn't getting there was nothing going on in here for about at least 8 weeks. There wasn't much going on. I was transferred back to my hometown, and I was told one day I was going to be discharged from the stomach specialist ward, the stomach ward, because I was in that ward because I couldn't open my mouth because one side of my face I had nervous system damage, so I couldn't open my mouth. My mouth was jammed shut. They couldn't analyse my mind because I couldn't speak. They were feeding me. Well, I was on a drip for weeks, and my dad said later that he'd asked the specialist at the head injuries unit how long it would be before they knew whether I was okay and my mind was okay, and he said, 3 months. And 8 weeks after that, I think it was, I'm not sure, possibly a few days. Within a few days, I was back in my hometown in the digestive ward because I couldn't open my mouth. I was told I was going to be discharged. I'd never been in hospital before, so the nurses went off shift. I thought, when am I going to be discharged? It was about 6 o'clock at night. They said today. So I put my dressing gown on. I had no idea. I was only in pyjamas and slippers. It was light. I walked out the ward unchallenged. I didn't know the drip I can't have been attached anymore. And I just walked home, which was around the corner. And Dad must have been at the races. He came and said, what are you doing here? Have you been discharged? I said, yeah. He says, why aren't you dressed and stuff? He said, I'll have to take you back and get you discharged properly and sign papers. And that's the thing, I shouldn't have even been discharged that day, I don't think, or I was due to be discharged. But in the end, I was discharged, and I kept getting arrested because I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, there was nothing going on here. I didn't even know my name. I remember being in the police station and saying, what's your name? I said a name. I don't know why I said that name. They said, where are you from? I said, York. They said, what are you doing in Northallerton? I said, I was with my mates. They said, where do you work? From work, they said, where do you work? I said, I can't remember which window it was on the transept on York Minster caught fire. It was struck by lightning, wasn't it? I said, I've been working on the stained glass window, repairing it. And all of a sudden, one of them said, don't talk nonsense, son. What's your name? And then they realised I didn't know who I was. But eventually, I think it was that night, the sergeant who came to my accident came in. He said, that's that lad who was in the accident. He recognised me by my injuries. And that's how they knew who I was. Because I don't know how they identified me at the crash scene, other than my postcode was stamped on the bottom bracket of my bike. I remember that it was a black bike, and it came from York. And when they stamped the postcode on, they said, "Oh, it's a shame to do that on such a nice bike." It wasn't a really expensive one, but there's a paint it with black paint. They said it wouldn't go rusty. It was alloy, but they said it's a shame to do that. But yeah, I remember that my postcode was stamped on my bike. It wasn't a big street. Well, wrong. There was only 22 houses, I think, in the street I lived in. So they know about the postcode. In 92, there's two young lads across the road. I think that was about it, people my age. So they know who I was. And yeah, I mean, I'd been transferred back to my local hospital. And then eventually, because of just being daft, I didn't know what I was doing. I kept getting arrested because it was usually after I'd been to the pub. And one day, I remember walking into the police station. I said, well, I think it was kind of a wind up. They said there was sort of supposedly some dignitary at my brother's wedding reception who was supposedly interested in me. She looked more like a burnt out, what's her name, Rosemary Ford to me than actually who she was supposed to be. Some princess of somewhere that I'd never even heard of. No, it wasn't there anyway. And of course, I walked into the police station. I said to there's a WPC on the counter. I said, I've got to get these two Indian princesses. The one I was supposedly introduced to wasn't even from India. It wasn't Asian. She was European. And it didn't happen anyway. It was just a wind up. Or they're just desperately trying to get me to get interested in this girl. And the thing was, I said, I've got to get these two Indian princesses to King's Cross by 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. By tomorrow morning. I realised it was dark and it was after 9 o'clock because you couldn't get a train south. What was it, after 9 or 10 o'clock at night from my local station? I thought it's a bit early. That you really want to be able to get a train south. Or was it 8 o'clock? It was something daft. And I said, I was sort of had this fixation. I said, but I can't get them there. How can I do it? And she got the sergeant, and then he just said, "Oh, Wetherill, lad, don't be so bloody daft. Get yourself home." They'd done it so many times. He knew who I was. And yeah, that was the thing. There was one night while all this was going on, all this sort of nonsense in here, I still had this fixation, and I was walking southbound down the southbound track, looking for a train. Well, I don't think it would have stopped for me because most of them just went through at least 100 miles an hour. No, it wouldn't have been able to stop for me. And there was I don't know if it was a Class 47 or a 56. They looked identical cabs, and I couldn't hear the engine. It was so close. And the driver had put the light cabs on, specially to wave to me, yeah. Because obviously he was on the northbound track about, he's 6 feet, there's 6 feet between the track, innit? So the coaches don't hit, there's the 4 foot, the 6 foot and the 4 foot. The between the tracks is important because they don't want the carriages to hit each other on corners. And he'd put the cab lights on to wave at me, especially, yeah, like this. That's all I saw. And I thought, what was that all about? What was he doing? Was that a Class 47 or a 56? Oh, it's on hoppers. It could be a 56. Yeah, it was a coal train. So I walked into the centre, midpoint at the station, climbed onto the platform. It was after dark. There was nobody on duty. I just walked out. Nobody knew about it. And I said to one of the CPA, telling me CPAs about that one day. She said, "Oh, we better watch you. We don't want you not taking your medication." But actually, I've never been like that since. I've been a bit daft, but usually it's because I've been a bit popped up and I've done too much exercise, like cycling and walking, and I just got anxiety. I didn't get these ridiculous thoughts because if you asked me, it was concussion all the time and I was misdiagnosed. Well, I mean, I haven't taken medication for about 3 years now. I would have been arrested a long time ago. I would have kicked off and I'd have been shouting and bawling at imaginary people and walking down the road holding hands with imaginary girlfriends and friends and getting drunk with imaginary friends and that. I mean, I've always had imaginary friends, best friends to have. You can rely on them. They won't let you down, and the imaginary girlfriends definitely don't two-time you.